Welcome back, everyone, to the Runner's Paradox podcast.
Great to be here.
We're here again to sort of lace up our minds, I guess, and really get into another crucial part of running.
Yeah, the stuff that goes on behind the miles.
Exactly. And today we're tackling something that I think many of us as runners, well, we might feel it deep down, maybe even intimately, but it's rarely something we talk about openly. It's that really thin line, isn't it, between loving running, that pure joy, and something else.
Yeah.
Something a bit more compelled.
Yeah, less chosen.
Yeah.
More required somehow.
Yes, that's it.
It's that quiet question, the one that kind of hangs around, doesn't it? Especially when, the training gets tough or maybe running starts feeling like a job. How do we actually know? When is running genuinely good for us? Health, joy, that freedom we talk about, and when is it maybe hiding us from ourselves?
Hiding us. That's a powerful way to put it.
When does it stop being this thing you choose, this celebration, and start feeling like a burden you're carrying? It's this unease, this sense that you need the run, not for the fun of it, but for relief, like a desperate kind of relief from something else.
Craving relief instead of joy. That hits hard, and that's exactly what we're going to unpack today.
Yeah.
This whole conversation stems from Chapter 9 of Ying's amazing book, The Runner's Paradox. The chapter's called The Need to Run.
A very fitting title.
Absolutely, and it's probably one of the most confronting, but I think necessary discussions for any runner really wanting a sustainable, healthy, genuinely joyful relationship with the sport.
I couldn't agree more.
And just a reminder, this whole series, the Runner's Paradox podcast, we're aiming to bring the book alive, really expand on its ideas with, the latest research, real stories, really exploring what running means today. And if you want to dive deeper into Ying's work or grab a copy of the book itself, you can find all the info at therunnersparadox.com.
And Chapter 9, The Need to Run, it really does go there. It tackles this concept that, like you said, gets whispered about maybe, after a bad race or an injury.
Yeah.
But it's not often faced head on.
Right.
We're talking about the idea that running, for some people, can actually become a kind of unspoken addiction. And it's sneaky because it often looks like dedication from the outside.
Addiction. Yeah, that word feels jarring, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Especially for running, which we're always told is so healthy, so good for us.
Exactly. It gets praised.
But what Ying makes so clear in the book, and what we really want to get into today, isn't about shaming anyone. Not at all. It's about shining a light on something real, something often silent, that, as Ying puts it so well, wears medals and gets compliments, and still quietly destroys.
Oh, yeah.
It's that point, that subtle shift where running isn't chosen anymore. It's compelled, driven by something inside.
Yeah, precisely. And Ying's own story in the book is, she's incredibly honest about this. She talks about being in secondary school under huge academic pressure, feeling like a bit of a nobody, really, and running, winning races. That gave her this massive confidence boost, a real sense of self she wasn't finding anywhere else.
A coping mechanism.
Totally. It became her way to deal with the stress, the pressure to succeed, and it worked. I mean, it led her all the way to a Nike sponsorship.
Incredible.
But that intense focus, that drive, while it looked like pure dedication, it slowly shifted things internally. That initial feeling of, I want to run, that pure passion, it just gradually, almost without her noticing, morphed into, I have to run.
Want to versus have to.
That small change in wording, from desire to, like, an imperative.
Yeah.
That's the absolute core of it. That's the crux of this whole chapter and what we're exploring.
The subtle slide from passion to compulsion.
Okay, that shift. Want to, becoming have to. That's where it gets really fascinating and maybe a bit uncomfortable for me. It feels like the difference between a really positive habit, something that genuinely makes your life better, and, a compulsion that starts to take over, making your world smaller, not bigger. So thinking about the research, thinking about Ying's insights, what are the signs? What are the sort of telltale signs that a healthy routine might be tipping over into something less healthy?
It's so tricky because it's usually gradual, Yeah. Sneaky. It doesn't just happen overnight.
Right.
Ying talks about this tunnel vision you see sometimes in competitive runners. This belief creeps in that nothing is more important than winning or achieving that new time. The goal, the PB, the race result, it becomes everything.
All-consuming.
Yeah. But here's the kicker, the paradox Ying points out. Eventually, even the goals don't matter. They are an excuse to keep running to perpetuate this idea of yourself.
Wow. So the running isn't even for the goal anymore.
Exactly. It's about maintaining the identity, your whole sense of self, your worth. It just gets completely wrapped up subsumed, as she puts it, into being a runner. There's no room left for anything else.
I can see how that happens.
And because running feels good physically, and we're told it's so good for us mentally too, it's easy to feel immune. Like, how could this possibly be bad? That makes it incredibly hard to spot when passion starts sliding into obsession, into something compulsive. It just looks like dedication.
It really is a paradox, isn't it? That deep investment, that identity, it feels like a strength, a positive thing.
Yeah.
But if we are talking about this need as compulsion, potentially addiction, how does the science, how does psychology actually define exercise addiction? What are we looking for clinically?
That's a really important question. Back in 2021, Godoy's-Kirdo and their team offered a pretty clear definition. They called it a condition of excessive or abusive exercising behavior in which moderate to intense physical activity becomes a compulsive behavior.
Compulsive, there's that word again.
Right. And the newer research, stuff from the last couple of years, 2023 to 2025, it keeps reinforcing a few key markers, which Ying also touches upon. These help us sort of separate it from just being really passionate.
Okay, what are they?
First, there's preoccupation. It's not just planning your runs. It's like your mind is constantly on it. Planning, thinking about the next workout, analyzing the last one. It starts crowding out other thoughts, other parts of your life.
Taking up mental real estate.
Totally. Second is the compulsion itself. This feeling that you have to exercise often longer, harder, more often than is actually healthy or sensible.
Even when you're tired or hurt.
Yes. That's a big one. Pushing through pain, ignoring fatigue, and it often comes at a cost, right? To relationships, work, social life, and definitely physical health. Canceling plans, missing deadlines, because the run has to happen.
Okay, preoccupation, compulsion. What else?
The third key marker is experiencing withdrawal symptoms. Just like with other addictions, if you can't exercise, maybe you're injured, sick, or life just gets in the way, you feel genuinely awful. Irritable, anxious, restless, maybe depressed, a really strong craving to get back out there.
Wow, like a physical need almost.
It can feel that way. And it's easy to miss because, let's face it, running is a pretty good way to cope with stress and anxiety. It works.
Yeah.
So that dependence can build up really quietly, kind of under the radar, masked by the fact that it's a healthy activity. It's a bit of an invisible trap.
That makes so much sense. The healthy disguise. So if it's providing genuine relief, it's easy to justify doing more and more. But what's the deeper reason? Why does this happen? Is it biology, psychology, both?
It's definitely both. There's a strong neurobiological piece. Ying touches on this, referencing work by Lembrook from 2021 about the dopamine hit and this idea of a pleasure-pain balance.
Dopamine, the reward chemical.
Exactly. You run, you feel good, maybe you hit that runner's high or achieve a goal, your brain releases dopamine, feels great, reinforces the behavior.
The reward pathway.
Right, but
Yeah.
the brain adapts. That amazing initial feeling doesn't last at the same intensity. And what often follows, especially with compulsive stuff, is a bit of a come down, a kind of unease, a craving that pushes you to seek that pleasure again. It becomes a cycle.
Seeking the high again.
Yeah. Ying points out this whole pleasure pain thing evolved for survival, right? Finding food, water mends, those gave dopamine hits, made us keep searching. Now we can kind of hijack that system, unknowingly or knowingly abused, as she puts it, chasing that running high. It taps into something really fundamental.
So our basic biology can kind of work against us here, creating this loop. That's fascinating. What about the psychological side? What drives it there?
Psychologically, a huge factor is often emotional avoidance. Running can be incredibly effective, temporarily at least, at helping you escape uncomfortable feelings.
Outrunning your problems, literally.
Pretty much. Anxiety, stress from work, relationship issues, deeper emotional pain. Hitting the pavement can silence all that noise for a while. The physical effort, the focus required, it's a powerful distraction.
A way to numb out, maybe?
Or just escape, yeah. Instead of processing the feelings, you just run away from them. And then the book also talks about external validations, getting that PB, winning your age group, even just getting kudos on Strava.
Ah, yes, the external validation loop.
It provides this real sense of control, of achievement, especially if other parts of your life feel messy or uncertain. It reinforces the behavior, makes you chase that feeling of competence again and again.
Control feels huge there. In a chaotic world, running offers something predictable, measurable. I get that. But why does this happen to some runners and not others, even really dedicated ones? Or some people just more susceptible?
That's a really key question. And yeah, research suggests individual factors definitely play a big role. College and colleagues back in 2021 found that people with existing mental health challenges, things like depression, ADHD, maybe a history of trauma, seem to be at higher risk.
So underlying vulnerabilities.
Exactly. Exercise might become the main or even the only way they cope with those difficult internal states. And then LaRocque and Moreau in 2022, they called exercise dependency the never alone addiction.
Never alone. What does that mean?
It means it often shows up alongside other things. Obsessive compulsive disorder, OCD, eating disorders like anorexia or bulimia, significant body image issues. The compulsive running isn't separate. It's part of a bigger pattern of trying to manage distress or exert control.
I see. So it's intertwined.
Very much so.
Yeah.
Then you have personality traits. Sports psychology tells us that things like perfectionism, high anxiety, obsessive traits, the very things that can make someone a dedicated, high-achieving athlete.
The things we often admire.
Right. They can also scaffold dependence, create the perfect conditions for this compulsion to take root. It resonates so much with Ying's story, you know. That drive for excellence, while amazing, also maybe made her more vulnerable to that slide from want to have to. The success traits can be a double-edged sword.
Wow. That's quite a thought. The very drive that fuels success can also fuel the compulsion. Okay, so we've talked mind, emotion, personality, but what about the body? Surely pushing past limits constantly, ignoring signals, that has to take a physical toll. What are the actual dangers?
Oh, absolutely. The physical toll is significant, and it goes way beyond just sore muscles. We're talking potentially serious long-term health problems. Shear and others did a big review in 2022, looking specifically at ultra-endurance running, which is kind of the extreme end of this.
What do they find?
A whole list of concerns. Excessive stress on the heart and lungs, potential breakdown of bone minerals, think stress fractures, osteoporosis risk, high blood pressure, and really importantly, enormous strain on the nervous system.
Nervous system strain. How does that work?
Well, Fromm explored this in 2020, talking about nervous system deregulation. Basically, when you're constantly pushing, overriding fatigue signals, your body's regulatory systems get thrown off balance.
Okay.
The body can start to get this misinterpret exercise as something soothing, even when it's actually causing damage, inflammation, microtears, hormonal imbalances. The brain still gets that temporary relief from endorphins and dopamine.
So it masks the damage.
It masks the damage and overrides the warning signs. Pain, exhaustion. You push through because you're chasing that soothing feeling, even though objectively you're digging yourself into a deeper hole. This is especially dangerous if running is your only coping tool for stress.
Because you'll keep going back to it, no matter the cost.
Exactly. You ignore the body's alarms, seeking that temporary fix while doing more and more cumulative damage. It's a really dangerous cycle.
The philosophical dimension, loss of choice, and reconstruction.
Okay, so we have the clinical side, the physical risks. But stepping back a bit, what does this compulsion, this need to run, actually mean for us, for our sense of freedom, our autonomy? It feels like we're getting into deeper, more philosophical territory now.
I think we have to. And Ying really goes there in The Runner's Paradox. She frames addiction in this context, not just clinically, but as a profound loss of choice.
Loss of choice.
Yeah. It's when, as she writes, your world shrinks down to splits, mileage, and guilt. That initial joy, that freedom you felt running, it gets replaced by this relentless internal pressure. It's not you choosing anymore. It feels like you're being driven.
Like you're not in the driver's seat.
Exactly. Ying connects this to Sartre's ideas about freedom and responsibility, the idea that we define ourselves through our choices. But when compulsion takes over, you lose that fundamental freedom. You feel, as she puts it, bound to the whims of fate, trapped by this internal need. Your world shrinks.
Yeah.
And that core sense of agency just evaporates.
A self-imposed prison built from something that started as freedom. That's heavy.
It is.
And that shrinking world, that loss of choice, that seems to lead straight into this idea of identity enmeshment, right?
Right.
When running isn't just something you do, it's who you are. Your whole identity gets wrapped up in it.
Precisely. And this is where Ying's concept that recovery isn't rest, it's reconstruction, becomes so incredibly important.
Reconstruction, not just rest. Say more about that.
Because, as the book explores really honestly, when running becomes your only identity, stopping can feel like death. Seriously. The idea of not running, maybe because of injury, life changes, getting older, it can trigger a massive existential crisis. It's not just losing your hobby, it feels like losing yourself.
Wow. Feeling like death. So what happens then? When the running stops, what's left? Who are you underneath the medals, the mileage logs? It must be terrifyingly blank.
Utterly disorienting. Ying describes this loss of the runner identity, maybe from injury, maybe just life getting in the way, is crippling. It brings feelings of alienation, like you don't belong anywhere anymore. Your sense of control is gone. You feel isolated from the running community that was your world.
I can imagine that isolation.
Think about it. You spent years defining yourself, coping with life, structuring your days around this one thing, and suddenly it's gone. You're in this weird, unfamiliar space. The reconstruction often has to start with grieving that lost identity, then asking, okay, who am I now? And then, consciously, deliberately, building other things. Finding old hobbies, starting new ones, reconnecting with non-runner friends, maybe getting professional help to navigate it all. It's about building a broader sense of self.
Building a broader foundation for who you are. And in today's world, technology adds another layer, doesn't it? All our gadgets, our watches, they're meant to help, but can they actually make this identity thing worse?
That's a really timely point. Research by Igorov and Sabo, recent stuff, looks at how, for some amateur runners, their self-worth gets tangled up with the data their wearables spit out. They talk about technostress.
Diagnosed.
Yeah, it's the psychological strain when the tech starts adding pressure. Your watch buzzing, constantly feeding you numbers, comparing you to past performances or other runners. It can create this feeling of inadequacy if the data isn't right, even if your body feels fine or actually needs rest.
So the watch, with all its metrics, cadence, ground contact time, heart rate variability, all the stuff the book discusses elsewhere, it stops being just a tool and becomes like a silent enforcer.
Kind of. A digital taskmaster, maybe?
Yeah.
The goal is objective feedback, right? Understand your body, train smarter. But if you're already leaning towards compulsion or perfectionism, that data stream can be fuel for the fire.
Right.
You start chasing the numbers on the screen instead of listening to your body's actual signals. Fatigue, stress, needing a day off. Doesn't matter if the watch says you should be hitting certain metrics. It can strip away the internal experience, the joy, and replace it with external validation, anxiety, guilt. The tech can end up binding you tighter to the compulsion, ironically.
Wow. That's a really important caution for all of us using these devices. Okay, before we talk about finding a way through this, about recovery, just a quick reminder for everyone listening. This whole deep, sometimes difficult conversation is inspired by and grounded in Ying's book, The Runner's Paradox. It's a book that really pushes us to think differently about our sport. You can find out more about it and grab yourself a copy over at therunnersparadox.com.
And often, it's the body itself that finally forces the issue. And injury. It's not just physical downtime then, is it? When running is your identity, an injury becomes this huge crisis of meaning.
Our crisis meaning.
Yeah, so why the book spends time, especially around miles 20 to 22, really focusing on the mental and emotional side of rehab. It's not just about fixing the tissue, it's about mending that fractured sense of self.
That limbo state during injury, the book calls it being stuck in between, a directionless state that feels chaotic and disconcerting, like grief.
That liminal space, yeah. It's tough. You've left the runner identity behind, but you haven't landed anywhere new yet. You feel cut off, lost. But, and this is crucial, it's also an opportunity, a forced pause, an invitation maybe to reflect and rebuild.
An invitation to rebuild. I love that framing. Maybe the toughest run isn't a marathon or an ultra. Maybe the hardest run is actually that internal journey back to a fuller self, a self that's more than just runner.
That could be the ultimate paradox, couldn't it? And that leads us right back to rethinking recovery. If we're talking addiction, identity issues, recovery isn't just not running or not feeling the urge. It's about actively cultivating the other parts of you.
The presence of other selves.
Exactly. Bringing those dormant interests back online, finding new things, nurturing different relationships, remembering or maybe finding out for the first time that you are so much bigger than this one activity.
Like Ying's own journey in the book.
Precisely. Miles 8 and 26 talk about how she stepped back from elite racing. Not because she was forced to, but because she chose to. She wanted space for new first miles, metaphorical ones. She wanted to acknowledge she was so much more than just the medal winner.
Reclaiming her agency.
Totally. Realizing her worth wasn't tied to her race results. And that's the thread running through the whole book, isn't it? Taking these challenges, compulsion, injury, identity crises, and consciously turning them into chances for real growth, building a self that's resilient, multifaceted. Outro.
This has been quite an exploration, really digging into the complexities, the light and the shadow of our relationship with running, drawing so much from the runner's paradox in the research.
It's deep stuff.
It is. And for you listening right now, we wanted to leave you with something to carry forward. 5 questions maybe to mull over on your next run or just in a quiet moment.
Invitations for reflection, really. No easy answers.
Okay, first one. When does your run feel genuinely chosen by you, and when does it feel required? Can you notice that internal shift?
Second, what parts of yourself, maybe thoughts, feelings, even responsibilities, might you be running away from, honestly?
Third, who are you without the run? If you took running away tomorrow, what's left? What defines you?
Fourth, thinking about that mind-body connection the book stresses. What other languages does your body speak, besides the urge to move? What are its whispers trying to tell you?
And number 5, this one really makes you think. What would healing look like for you if it had nothing to do with performance? Nothing external, just internal well-being.
Yeah, powerful questions to sit with. It's about understanding your why on a much deeper level.
Absolutely. Really vital stuff. And just a heads up, next time on the Runner's Paradox podcast, we're carrying on this journey, diving into Chapter 10. We'll be looking at injury again, but shifting the focus, seeing it not just as a setback, but as that invitation to rebuild, learn, and maybe grow stronger in ways we didn't expect.
Transforming adversity, finding resilience beyond just the physical. It builds perfectly on today's conversation.
We really hope today has given you maybe a new perspective, some food for thought about your own running journey. Please do subscribe to the Runner's Paradox podcast so you don't miss Chapter 10. And if this resonated, maybe share it with a running friend who might appreciate it.
Yeah, spread the conversation.
And maybe try listening to this or thinking about these questions while you're actually out there moving. Because as Ying reminds us throughout the book, sometimes the most important run isn't about pace or distance. It's the one where you come back home to yourself.
Well said.
You can find all the info about the podcast, the book, everything at therunnersparadox.com.
Until next time, run well, reflect well.
Take care, everyone. Bye for now.